So I'm north of Sellards Road between Sellards and Williamson on Lincoln Road. It's crossing.
America's wildfire emergency has entered another dangerous phase. 86 large fires remain uncontained, more than 22,000 personnel are working incidents nationwide, and over 7.8 million acres have burned since the beginning of the year. But the most immediate danger is unfolding around Reno, Nevada, where the Hawk Fire has reached the edge of densely populated communities, injured 6 people, destroyed structures, and placed tens of thousands of residents under evacuation orders or warnings. This is not 90,000 confirmed evacuees. About 42,000 people are in mandatory evacuation zones, while another 45,000 are in warning zones and must be ready to leave. So let's get right into the latest confirmed information. The Hawk Fire began late Saturday morning near Hawk Meadow Trail in the Somerset area northwest of Reno. What started as a relatively small brush fire accelerated across grass, brush, and timber as gusty winds repeatedly changed its direction. By the Monday morning National Situation Report, the fire had burned 15,051 acres and remained 0% contained. Officials have classified the fire as human-caused, but that does not mean investigators have determined whether it was accidental or intentional. The specific ignition source remains under investigation. The evacuation picture needs to be understood carefully. 42,000 residents are under mandatory orders to leave, while approximately 45,000 others are covered by evacuation warnings. Authorities have encouraged people who need additional time, including older adults and residents moving pets or livestock, to leave warning zones early. The combined population is close to 87,000, which some reports have rounded to 90,000 people affected by evacuation notices. It does not mean 90,000 people have already evacuated. 6 people have been injured, including 3 civilians and 3 emergency responders. The National Interagency Fire Center now lists 13 structures as lost. That category can include homes, commercial buildings, cabins, and outbuildings, so the entire number should not be described as destroyed houses. Damaged teams still have to inspect affected neighborhoods before authorities can issue a complete property count. NAFC lists 720 personnel assigned to the incident, supported by 14 crews, 95 engines, and 10 helicopters. Evacuation zones, road closures, and restricted areas remain in effect. The fire has disrupted daily life across the Reno area. Nearly 10,000 homes and businesses experienced power outages after equipment was damaged or shut down for safety. Portions of USS Route 395 were closed or restricted. Most Washoe County schools were closed Monday, while the University of Nevada, Reno remained outside the evacuation zone. Reno State Airport was restricted for firefighting operations, while Reno Tahoe International Airport remained open. For residents forced to leave, finding shelter became another challenge. The first evacuation center at Evelyn Mount reached capacity, and operations expanded to the Reno Sparks Convention Center. The American Red Cross reported that 465 people slept inside on the first night, while several hundred more stayed in cars and recreational vehicles outside. Hotels filled quickly, and evacuees with animals needed separate arrangements for pets and livestock. Nevada Governor Joe Lombardo declared a state of emergency in Washoe County, allowing state agencies and the Nevada Emergency Operations Center to reinforce the local response. The Nevada National Guard has provided personnel and aviation support. Fire managers are also drawing from a national system already operating at Preparedness Level 5, the highest level. The Hawk Fire remains capable of rapid movement because unburned vegetation around the perimeter is extremely dry, and winds can push flames toward communities with little warning. Even when smoke appears lighter, officials say that does not mean the threat has ended. In California, the timber fire southeast of Big Sur remains another major concern. The fire has burned 12,616 acres and is 25% contained. 7 evacuation zones remain under mandatory orders, with 11 additional zones under warnings. The most active portions are in the northern and eastern sections, where separate areas of fire have merged inside the Ventana wilderness. Fire has reached partway up Island Mountain and continues backing through steep drainages toward the upper Carmel River Basin. The rugged terrain limits where firefighters can safely work directly on the edge. Helicopters and other aircraft are supporting crews with water and retardant drops, while firefighters strengthen primary and contingency lines along ridges and existing roads. The western and coastal portions have shown less activity, but the eastern side remains difficult to access. High clouds and slightly cooler conditions may moderate fire behavior, although poor overnight humidity recovery means vegetation can remain dry through the night. No deaths, injuries, or destroyed structures have been confirmed for the timber fire in the latest incident updates. Farther north in Washington, the Little Giant Fire has expanded to 144,832 acres and remains 15% contained. Structures and critical infrastructure remain threatened. More than 2,200 personnel are assigned, supported by 240 soldiers from the 7th Infantry Division. Chelan County identified at least 35 structures lost in the Upper and T8 Valley, 2 primary homes, 13 secondary homes or cabins, and more than 20 outbuildings. Evacuations and closures continue. The Sinlahekin fire west of Tonasket has reached 155,209 acres, with containment improving to 53%. That progress is meaningful, but the fire is not over. Moderate activity continues in parts of the perimeter and homes remain threatened.
Oh my God.
NIF lists 30 structures lost and more than 1,500 personnel assigned. Cooler overnight temperatures and improved humidity may help firefighters strengthen containment lines, but remaining heat, dead vegetation, and difficult terrain can still produce renewed activity. In Alaska, the Mukluk Fire near Tok is holding at 7,260 acres, while containment has increased to 29%. Rain over the fire area has reduced behavior to mostly smoldering, creeping, and isolated tree torching. Even so, homes and important infrastructure remain exposed, including transportation, power, and communication routes around Tok. Evacuations, road closures, and area restrictions remain in effect. NIF continues to list 44 structures lost, while personnel assigned to the incident have increased to 328. Several additional fires have changed quickly. The Colwash fire in Washington is now listed at 38,599 acres and 8% containment, with 1 structure lost and critical infrastructure threatened. The figure is dramatically higher than the earlier 4,000-acre estimate. Officials have not attributed the entire difference to a single day of spread, so it should be treated as a major mapping or reporting update. In Oregon, the newly listed McCulley fire has reached approximately 1,200 acres and remains 0% contained. Fire managers report extreme behavior, including uphill runs, crowning, and spotting. Structures and communication infrastructure are threatened, and evacuations are in effect. The Three Queens fire in Washington has grown to 6,705 acres, but containment has improved to 13%. In Montana, the Sand Creek fire remains at 32,306 acres, with containment increasing to 14% and 1 structure listed as lost. The Grasshopper fire in Oregon also requires careful wording. It has burned approximately 93,700 acres and is 76% contained, but it should not be described as stable or no longer threatening communities. NIF still reports active uphill runs, flanking, and groups of trees torching. Numerous residences and critical infrastructure remain threatened. Evacuations and closures continue, and 35 structures are listed as lost. A high containment percentage means crews have control lines around much of the perimeter. It does not mean every section of the fire is inactive. Across the United States, NEF is tracking 86 uncontained large fires covering more than 3.6 million acres. 22,085 personnel are assigned nationwide. 12 new large incidents were reported in the latest daily period, while only 2 were declared contained. Preparedness remains at level 5. Incident management teams and 270 personnel from Australia and New Zealand are supporting operations, while military C-130 aircraft equipped for aerial firefighting have also been deployed. The weather pattern remains a major concern. Temperatures across much of the Northwest are expected to climb back into the 80s and 90s, with minimum relative humidity falling as low as 8 to 20%. Isolated wet and dry thunderstorms are possible from far northeastern California and southeastern Oregon into the northern Great Basin. A storm may produce a brief downpour over one location while sending lightning and gusty outflow winds into another. That combination can start new fires or rapidly change the direction of an existing one. This remains a developing emergency. Acreage can change after overnight mapping flights, evacuation boundaries can move within minutes, and structure loss totals can rise as assessment teams enter burned neighborhoods.